Joining us now on the line is Sharyl Attkisson, who's the author of a new book, Stonewalled, My Fight for Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation, and Harassment in Obama's Washington. Sharyl, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, look, there's a lot of things to talk about here, and if you want to know really how Washington works for a reporter and what it is to be a reporter in Washington, I really recommend that you read this because it's pretty eye-opening stuff here. But I wanted to explore with you, Sharyl, something that I always observed as a reporter that I don't think most people pick up on. We often look at reporters and say, well, that reporter is biased or that reporter has an agenda. But what is often overlooked in most of that is that a lot of the decisions that drive what a reporter does are made by the executives in the news, the editorial people who each day make the reporter assignments. Talk about that process a little bit and what it has become in many networks and many news organizations around the country.
Well, I think that's right. I would say at the ground level, there are a lot of strong reporters and producers who can put whatever feelings they have aside because they're journalists and cover a fair story wherever it goes. But I think it's become increasingly difficult to get some of those stories past the gatekeepers, the managers in New York, as you might put it, of the different broadcasts, who the last couple of years, in my opinion and experience, have exerted more influence and control to try to shape stories, to try to dictate what direction they're going in, regardless of what we're telling them is happening on the ground. And it's not just ideological. There are other biases and other shaping of scripts that go into play for reasons that are outside just the basic facts of the story. And I think a lot of reporters are frustrated.
Sharyl Attkisson, one of the things in your book, and I really do commend it to people, Stonewalled, My Fight for Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation, and Harassment in Obama's Washington. One of the things that really stuck out to me was when you talk about these nonprofit groups around town. They're really political action groups who have incredible amounts of private funding, and they utilize it to do opposition research on reporters, on you. I mean, they create, it's almost like you're a political figure and you're a politician, and they're doing oppo research, and they're attacking you, the reporter, just for challenging the administration. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, there are very sophisticated efforts that have figured out how to make use of legal means to shape and manipulate the news and public opinion. And one of those I talk about in the book is the use of nonprofits because they are, quite unregulated. There are not a lot of IRS regulations and oversight. It's very loose. But what you'll find is, what I found anyway, is whenever there's a nonprofit that jumps into something or pushes a cause, many times when you look and follow the money, they're related to the cause that you think they're actually sometimes fighting, or they're related to a cause that sounds unlike what they present to you as a nonprofit or as a charity. One example I'll just that I cite in the book, the National Sleep Foundation does this sleep poll that tells America, we're all having an epidemic of sleeplessness and how terrible it is, and go see your doctor. And those keywords, were familiar to me, having been a reporter around a while. And I checked, and the National Sleep Foundation was funded by sleeping pill manufacturers, among others, including Lunesta, which was about to introduce a new sleeping pill on the market. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a hidden way in which the news was just reporting this poll, and it was getting the word out there that we all have to go to our doctor and talk about how sleepy we are without disclosing that, the sleeping pill manufacturers are behind this propaganda or poll, however you want to view it.
Well, there's this other one called Media Matters. Now, they've been set up by David Brock, who is a huge supporter of Hillary Clinton. In fact, he started a whole new political action committee to support Hillary Clinton. And there's evidence that Media Matters has traded emails with and regularly works with the Justice Department. Did they have anything to say about you, and did they attack you as well?
Well, yes, of course. And, there's sort of a joke on the inside for people who understand what they're all about, but I've learned that too many people don't. They repeat these false talking points and propaganda on behalf of the administration or, to protect Hillary Clinton's interests. And the so-called mainstream press will pick up those false talking points and repeat them as if there's some sort of confirmed fact and throw them out in the public domain. And I point out in the book, the press never seems to pick up talking points from their right-wing counterparts. They're sort of, exposing themselves for what they are sometimes by taking this far left-wing media blog and acting as though it's a news source, but never doing the same with the right-wing media blogs.
Yeah, I always carried it as a badge of the honor on days that I got attacked by Media Matters. Well, listen, look, I've got to get into this thing that has very much been discussed, and that is, we've actually seen video of what was going on with your home computer. Now, many people know that you have been on the forefront of coverage about issues that the Obama administration is very sensitive about, Fast and Furious, the Benghazi affair, and all the investigation into that. And you actually believe that your computer was hacked. And what is interesting about this is that you believe that some software, some spyware was used that is sort of proprietary to a number of government agencies. What can you tell us about your true feelings about who's behind these attempts to attack and hack into your personal computer at home?
I'll just stick to what the forensics show. I certainly never came up with this theory on my own, and I certainly never thought the government was surveilling or monitoring me. But through happenstance, I had the occasion to have someone who offered to look at my CBS laptop computer, and they immediately found the forensics exam, as you say, that there was long-term monitoring software that had been installed, an attempt to watch pretty much everything I do with keystroke programs, activating Skype apparently to be able to listen through the audio on that, looking through my files, accessing the CBS system, accessing all my passwords. There were 2 subsequent forensics exams that also revealed remote intrusions, not just to that laptop, but to my Apple desktop at home by remote intruders. So my feeling on that is the forensics was the first report, kind of shocking, even to the people who conducted the forensics. I think it's outrageous, and I'm pursuing whatever legal options I have.
But specifically, as I understand it, you believe that the spyware has the fingerprints of certain governmental agencies. Can you sort of expand upon that?
Yes. I was told by the first forensics examiner that the software used is proprietary to either the DIA, the FBI, the CIA, or the NSA.
Do you have a sense of which of those might be responsible?
No, I don't have a sense. And then my third analyst, the one that's been able to dig the deepest, has also found signals that point to government-related intrusion.
You know, you hear something like this, and you knew about this, and this was known by your higher-ups at CBS News, because you think of the long-storied history of CBS News. I mean, if the old executives under the old days, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, if they knew about this, they would be screaming bloody murder right now. Why aren't we hearing anything from CBS News?
They did issue a press release after some months confirming the remote intrusions, but to me, anyways, it sort of fell off from there, and I felt like maybe they were watching out for the corporate interests, but not so much looking into protecting my sources and security and so on, which is why I hired my own team. I can't tell you why more people aren't outraged, because as much as the Media Matters propagandists are trying to pretend this didn't happen, I think in general most of my colleagues do believe it did, and privately some will discuss their outrage, but in general, you haven't heard as much as you think you might have from people who likewise could have been compromised for all they know.
Well, Fred Friendly is just rolling over in his grave at the thought of that.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. Sharyl Attkisson, the name of the book is Stonewalled, My Fight for Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation, and Harassment in Obama's Washington. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sometimes I say harassment, sometimes I say harassment.
It's a heck of a title, though.
Yeah, it is. That's a great title. Thanks, Sharyl.